You can be the most qualified person in the room and still not get the job. You can train the hardest, run the fastest, still not win. You can eat well, still get sick. You can do everything right and still have things go wrong. So we live in a culture that has made a religion out of control. More planning, more tracking, everything under control. Because we want sometimes to be the captain of our own ship, like this is what the word tells us. Yes, you can do everything you set your heart to. He says, but you're not the captain. You're not even on the boat. In the end, you're a fish in the ship's net. But God is not making a mess of your life. He's making something. And even the times and the experiences you would never have chosen that are out of your control, they're in the hands of someone who knows what He's doing. The appetite never fully quiets. The net is always somewhere in the water. Death is coming for us all. But there's a God who is above the sun, who made the times and holds them, who gives the gifts and receives the worship. He sees every secret thing and He brings everything into account one day. Who wants to live forever? Yes, me too. I think many people like to do that. It's a serious question, and I have one guy, I don't know if you know him, he has this goal of living forever. His name is Brian Johnson. He's 48 years old, and he spends like $2 million a year in anti-aging regimen and just to stay young and to reverse aging. His goal actually is don't die. So he made his money being a tech millionaire, not billionaire yet. So he has all the resources in the world. This guy takes like 70 supplements a day. He even injected his teenage son's blood into his own and then later blood plasma in an attempt to slow aging. He monitors everything like daily MRI, EEG, heart, brain, nighttime erections, quality of his stool, and many more. He has thousands of his own organ clones in a dish just to test the different drugs, how it will affect the body. He wants to become immortal by 2039 because then he thinks AI will help us to achieve that. He thinks of the immortal jellyfish who never die because their cells reproduce. And yeah, with the help of AI, he thinks he can do that. Sounds familiar to the sermon from Daryl, right? Last week. He actually managed to be biologically 10 years younger. So yeah, something worked, right? I'm sure no one has done that before, right? To control that and to figure out how to live forever and how to basically not die, right? Wrong. In the middle of the Bible, there is a book that has something to say about the desire to explore and to control everything. And it's, while we're limited in this on this earth, this is kind of like the desire we have. It's one of the strangest books ever written, and it makes comfortable religious people nervous, and it makes the honest non-religious people feel seen. It's called Ecclesiastes, or literally preacher in German, and it begins like this. Vanity of vanity, says the preacher. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. It's a very strange way of talking, right? The word behind that is the Hebrew word hebel, and it means breath, vapor, breath on a cold morning, like yesterday maybe or today. And vanity of vanity means like the maximum meaninglessness, basically. Like King of Kings, Song of Songs. This word appears like 38 times in this book. It's apparently a very important topic. And it means something appears, hovers for a moment, and then it's gone. Kind of like a delusion, or maybe Fata Morgana or something, vanity, yeah. But it doesn't mean it's worthless. It's transient, and a breath is essential for life. Like we breathe, but the breath is gone, but still we need it. And so this preacher, or Kohelet, as it's called in Hebrew, and I'm going to call him for now so to not get confused with preacher and who's the preacher and what preacher. He is a king who had literally everything the world could offer. He was a smart billionaire, kind of like this guy we heard about before. He had all the resources in the world. Traditionally, it's understood he's Solomon, the king of David, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Kohelet means the assembler, the one who brings people together to the congregation. We don't know exactly if it's Solomon or another wise teacher, but he knows what he's talking about. He's not a monk who warns us about some wealthy things that he has never tasted. He's someone who had everything, who could imagine a lot of things, and he went all the way human could go to figure something out. This guy looks at his entire life and says, vanity, everything meaningless. So he's not a drama king, not an armchair philosopher. He ran the experiment and gives you the abstract in the beginning. And he comes back with a report. So the book itself, Ecclesiastes, we won't read everything because it's kind of like goes in a spiral, comes back again and again. It's not like gradually going, but it's kind of like coming back again and again to the same problems, especially around work, injustice, death. And it's a different angle each time and goes deeper in every round. And it just gives you the argument, if you want to follow that, and proves you in a conclusion what it stated in the beginning. Basically, this one here. So this morning I want to take you through this book, through this report, not to depress you and tell you everything is meaningless, but because this book does something unusual. It's brutally honest about the ground floor of life, where we are. It does not leave you there, though. It takes you up floor by floor by floor until you arrive somewhere where it feels less like some kind of like, I need to tell myself life is all good and beautiful, but more about something that kind of like recognizes that life is not always nice and beautiful, but there is something beyond that. So it states it as nothing new under the sun, but there is something new and something that was always there waiting above it. So the first floor, I want to lay it like this, is the ground floor. Imagine a building 3 floors, and I live in a building with 3 floors. So standing at the entrance on our building is, there is a wall, you don't see a lot. There's like limited view. The windows there are low, and I actually in Austria lived in an apartment that had even metal bars in front of the windows, not because it was jail, but so people could not break in. So it was an old building. And you're literally under the sun. You're just like limited, can only see like a little bit. And you cannot see, it's not particularly encouraging what you can see. So this is the ground floor of this book, chapters 1 to 6. On this floor, this Kohelet, he's not a pastor trying to encourage you. He's not like going, yes, you can do everything you want to do. He's more of a scientist running an experiment and is more a philosopher doing some field work, a king with unlimited resources, unlimited access, unlimited freedom. And he uses all of it to test every single thing the world promises will satisfy you. He starts right with the abstract, like a good researcher, right? He puts the abstract at the beginning. And I just want to read this before we go to the rest of the experiment. So I'm just going to read a couple of verses there. We read verse 2, and in verse 3 it says, "What profit has a man from all his labor in which he toils under the sun? One generation passes away and another generation comes, but the earth abides forever. The sun also rises, the sun goes down and hastens to the place where it arose. The wind goes toward the south and turns around to the north. The wind whirls about continually and comes again on its circuit. All the rivers run into the sea, yet the sea is not full. To the place from which the rivers come, there they return again. All things are full of labor. Man cannot express it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. That which has been is what will be. That which is done is what will be done. And there is nothing new under the sun. Is there anything of which it may be said, see, this is new? It has already been in ancient times before us. There is no remembrance of former things, nor will there be any remembrance of things that are to come by those who will come after." So you can get kind of like the feeling it goes in cycles, it's a season, it's coming again and again and again and again. And he brings it straight home to this human experience. In all the midst of all those cycles and seasons that repeat themselves, something goes against the flow. I don't know if you have noticed it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. So there's always something that is not quite there. And now today we know there's infinite content. There is no way we can possibly consume all of the content that is produced. Streaming, scrolling, consuming everything. The hunger is still there. The next episode, next purchase, next accomplishment, next experience. Still, people are not full. There's still always something new to explore, to do. And then he continues with, there is nothing new under the sun. It's like this book was written like 2,500, 3,000 years ago, I think. So still, basically when we read this today, it's like, it's kind of a remix of everything that was before and not something new. Yes, we have new technology, new philosophy, new politics, but the human condition does not change. So After he has set the scene, he goes on to the experiment, and he starts his test. He begins with wisdom first. And I set my heart to know wisdom and to know madness and folly. I perceive that this is also grasping for the wind. For in much wisdom is much grief, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow. So the more clearly you see, the more pain you see. Wisdom gives you some kind of like X-ray vision. You see all of the brokenness of the world, but it does not give you the power to fix it. So as we get older, we see things differently from experience, some people from wisdom, maybe for some, but we see behind some people the motives, we see why things happen or why they could have happened. So a brilliant person is not protected from that experience, from experiencing grief. It's more exposed to it. So wisdom, yeah, it's not it. Even if you're the smartest guy in the world, yeah, it's not the end goal. Then he tests pleasure, laughter, entertainment, the dopamine loop, everything that brings joy. He dedicates himself to it completely. And then he says, I said of laughter, madness, and of mirth. What does it accomplish? Not because joy is wrong or anything, but because if it's pursued as a strategy, as a way to fill the void, then it works as long as that joy lasts. And once that is over, the joke ends, the silence comes back, the void is still there. So if you have made pleasure your God, you tried it, and then you come back, yeah, nothing, it's not worth it. Okay, so he moves on. He tests work, right? We all love work. It gives us some kind of accomplishment, some kind of identity. We can achieve things, we can build a legacy, build a career, all of those things. He goes on, he continues to build houses, plants vineyards, makes gardens and pools. He accumulates wealth, and if it's really this King Solomon, then he's the wealthiest ever. He's like at the top of the top. He accumulates wealth beyond anything all of his mates could imagine. So maybe you've made career your God. Some people do that. And then find yourself still searching for something. Maybe got burned out, maybe even made redundant or replaced in a heartbeat and realize, yes, that's also not it. Maybe you're at the top. He looks at all of it and says, and I looked at all of the works that my hands had done and on the labor in which I had toiled, and indeed all was vanity and grasping for the wind. There was no profit under the sun. So this is where he is. He has diagnosed different things on the ground floor. Wisdom is not bad. Work is not bad. Pleasure is not bad. The problem is this gap between the things that they can actually deliver and what we're expecting them to deliver. So we expect them to give us something permanent, something that fulfills, something that stays, something final, some plateau of satisfaction, and then, yes, this is enough, I have arrived, I have done everything, I'm full. This word that he uses for gain, yitron, I think, it's called also the advantage, the profit, the thing that is the surplus, a commercial term. Profit after you extracted all of the costs, all of the taxes, what's left over after all your effort and the taxes of life. He comes back to what we read before. What profit has a man from all his labor in which he toils under the sun? So he doesn't ask, is it meaningful or does it even matter? Because it does. But is it permanent? Does it last? Is there anything that stays? And he arrives again, nothing lasts. It's vapor, it's absurd, it's vanity. So those things were not designed to carry the expectations we put on them. They're good things, but they're not ultimate. And we should not ask ultimate questions of them because they cannot deliver. There's one more thing he wants to look. There's many more things, but one more thing I want to point out. He puts his finger on something that's maybe the deepest wound of our modern society: control. He writes, I returned and saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, nor bread to the wise, nor riches to men of understanding, nor favor to men of skill, but time and chance happen to them all. And we have all been there, right? You can be the most qualified person in the room and still not get the job. You can train the hardest, run the fastest, still not win. You can eat well, still get sick. You can do everything right and still have things go wrong. So we live in a culture that has made a religion out of control. Kind of like this guy in the beginning. More data, more optimization, more planning, more tracking, everything under control. The air condition keeps the temperature at the same level. If it gets too hot, too cold, it just keeps it at the same degree we set it. We're not victims of the climate around us anymore. We can keep the temperature in that way. And all of that, to manage all the variables correctly, we think, well, maybe then we can guarantee the outcome. If this guy controls every parameter of his body and he thinks he can become younger, he can control life, he can control death, he can control not dying. He can overcome the limits of our humanness, like Daryl's sermon last week, this singularity thing. For me, I can track all my habits, all my workouts. If I just go to bed early enough, if I just have a better sleep score on my watch, and in the morning, yes, I will feel so much better. It's like, well, it doesn't happen. So what Kohelet, this preacher, says from the ground floor, he looks out of his window and says, you cannot control it. We're not the architect of our outcomes. And there's an author called Bobby Jamieson. He wrote the book, Everything is Never Enough, about exactly this book, Ecclesiastes. And there was quite a cool quote, because we want sometimes to be the captain of our own ship. Like, this is what the word tells us. Yes, you can do everything you set your heart to. He says, but you're not the captain. You're not even on the boat. In the end, you're a fish in the ship's net. Great. So the more you expect to control the uncontrollable, the more the uncontrollable will break you. And this desire to control, if you believe in the Bible and read the Bible, has been around since the beginning, since Genesis 3, when, people wanted to control what they know. We won't go there, even though all of our answers seem to be in Genesis recently. But, what do we do with that? What a uplifting message. We cannot control everything. It's so absurd. Back to the preacher. He's not saying it to crush you. He's saying it to free us. Because the moment we stop pretending we can control what we cannot control, something loosens. The clenched fist that holds tight to what we cannot control begins to open. And an open hand can receive and experience something new. So when I had my university graduation shortly after my 22nd birthday, I felt such a major milestone. It's like on top of the world. After 12 years of school, 4 years of uni, finally, I'm there. I could do what I wanted. I got an academic title before my name. I'm an engineer, yay! My father was proud of me, finally. So the joy didn't last that long. Because once I realized I had to find a job, and it was way harder than I could imagine, someone told me, the job lies on the road, like it's on the street, just pick them up, just go in, get a handshake, and that's it, how you get a job. Finding a place to live with others seemed exciting at first, but then it's like, it became a burden. And I was still young when I graduated. I realized people didn't take me serious because, just like, what do you know? I second-guessed my education. I second-guessed my choices, the pathway, quite a few times. I was on the ground level. I could not see above that. I was just like, this is how it's going to be. Oh, well, great. Maybe I was halfway on the stairs to the next floor. The next floor, the ground floor is not the only floor. This Kohelet knows it. In the very same chapters, he exposes the vapor of striving. He keeps also returning to something else. 6 times in the whole book, he says something that surprises you after everything that has come before. First, it appears in chapter 2. He has just described the total disillusionment with wisdom and achievement and pleasure. Read this. For there is no more remembrance of the wise man than of the fool forever, since all that now is will be forgotten in the days to come. And how does a wise man die? As the fool. Therefore I hated life, because the work that was done under the sun was distressing for me. For all is vanity and grasping for the wind. So uplifting, this guy. Then without a warning, he writes this. Few verses later, nothing is better for a man than he should eat and drink, and that his soul should enjoy good in his labor. This also I saw was from the hand of God. Wait. All his vapor, he hates life, everything. And now he's telling us to eat and enjoy? What a contradiction. Or is it a change of floor, maybe? What has changed between this ground floor and the second floor? Food, the same. Eat and drink. Labor, the same. Work is the same. Relationships in other verses I mentioned, also the same. Daily life is the same. What has changed is where it comes from. On the ground floor, you think you're in control. You want to take everything from life that you can get. Take, accumulate, achieve. All with the goal of producing permanent satisfaction. But on the second floor, you receive the life. You take the same meal, do the same work, live the same day, but now you receive it as a gift from a generous hand, rather than extracting it from a limited resource. He makes it more explicit in the next chapter 3. This is less philosophical and gets more theological. He has made everything beautiful in its time. Also, he has put eternity in their hearts, except that no one can find out the work that God does from beginning to end. So it's God who has put this eternity in your heart. That's the explanation for this gap. That is why a job, a relationship, achievement, pleasure, none of it finally, ultimately satisfies. Not because something is wrong with you, not because you are doing life incorrectly and you have no idea how to live, but because you were designed for something that no finite thing can contain. You have a longing for the infinite built into you. And ending things, material things, no matter how good they are, will always fall short of the infinite. And this longing is not a malfunction of you. It's a pointing somewhere. So the person who misreads this longing tries to fill it with more things. One more experience, one more achievement, one more relationship, one more upgrade, and then wonders why this longing is still there after every step, after every acquisition. But if you read this longing correctly, you understand it was never meant to be filled by anything under the sun, but it's meant to drive it toward the one who is above the sun. And while you are still there in this vapor, in this absurdity of life, you receive the ordinary gifts of the ordinary day, but with open hands. The meal, the work, the person beside you. 6 times this Kohelet comes back to this. 6 gift passages in the whole book. And they escalate. By chapter 9, he's writing with some kind of urgency. Go! Eat your bread with joy. Drink your wine with a merry heart, for God has already accepted your works. Let your garments always be white, very hard, and let your head lack no oil. Live joyfully with the wife whom you love all the days of your vain life, which he has given you under the sun, all your days of vanity, for that is your portion in life, and in the labor which you perform under the sun. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with your might, for there is no work or device or knowledge or wisdom in the grave where you are going. So God has already approved that feast. You do not need to earn it first. You do not need to deserve it. The question is if you will sit down and receive and enjoy it, or if you still stand and observe, what do I have to do to qualify for that? Ecclesiastes, as it mentions like near the end, is also the most death-aware book in all of the Bible. Maybe Job is a bit more extreme, but in Ecclesiastes this is a recurring topic. But death is not a morbid decoration. It removes every illusion of anything permanent under the sun. And the mentioning of multiple times that we all have an end, forces you to think and ponder about what it really matters. So immediately before and after that passage about enjoying the gifts, Kohelet talks about death and the reality of it. You cannot escape it, you cannot take anything with you, you cannot take part in anything that happens on the earth. For the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing, and they have no more reward. For the memory of them is forgotten. Also their love, their hatred, and their envy have now perished. Nevermore will they have a share in anything done under the sun. So while we are still not dead, there is still hope and time to enjoy what we have been given. Especially like this next one, that is a verse before. But for him who is joined to all the living, there is hope. For a living dog is better than a dead lion. Because you can still change things, you can still do things, you can still receive things. So from the second floor, we're still on the second floor, right? You can see something you could not see from the ground. The problem was never the things, but what you expected from the things. If you put them down as gods and pick them up as gifts, then they become something different entirely. Work, instead of your identity, becomes an offering, a service to others. Relationships, instead of being your salvation, becomes a companionship. Pleasure, instead of the purpose, becomes your portion for today. And today's portion is enough because the giver is generous, and tomorrow he will give again. Just a little example to help me relate to that. You know the feeling when the only desire you have is for your nose to be unblocked when you're like sick and have a cold? And it's like, oh, I will never take it for granted again. And then as soon as your nose is free, you remember that for a few hours a day and then forget it again and take it for granted, and it's normal. But it's like once you have gone through the suffering of a blocked nose, then you realize how good it is to be able to breathe freely. So yeah, it's just about the way we appreciate things. All right, so this was the second floor. Let's move on to the next floor. This is the third floor. Kohelet spends the least amount of time on this third floor. I live on the third floor and I spend the most amount of time there. It's a nice view, but not as good as like even higher above. This Kohelet visits it briefly, but when he gets there, this view is really clear. More clear than in some of the other floors below. So some chapters, 3, 5, and 12, they contain glimpses of that, but you cannot really appreciate that if you have not read all the other stuff and gone through all the other things, the other floors, if you have not walked up from the lower floors. So, and this third floor, it's not a religious abstraction or anything. It's more of a conclusion of what has been earned. Every piece of vapor, every absurd interaction, every strange thing, every failed strategy, but also every honest observation about the world's brokenness builds toward it. And so in chapter 3, like I said, it comes back again and again, so it's not definitely at the end. Kohelet writes the most famous passage in the whole book. You might have heard it at weddings, funerals, or there are songs about it. You might have seen it on greeting cards, but most people who have encountered it missed what it's saying actually. To everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to gain and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to tear, and a time to sue, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. So these are 14 pairs of opposite things, 28 activities that cover the complete range of human experience. Why 14? I like numbers, so I looked it up. 7 in the Hebrew worldview means complete, and 7 times 2 is the completeness of the complete, or the most complete completeness, kind of like everything. Kohelet is not saying, cheer up, things will change, everything will be right. No, he's saying you do not control when these times occur. We would love to, again, have this control and be able to steer it some way, but it's an illusion. You did not choose when you were born. Not even your parents chose the exact day and hour. You will not choose when you die. You will not schedule your season of weeping, season of laughing. You will not determine when it's time to plant and when the harvest comes, because these times are appointed by someone else. The one who appoints them is not you. This is terrifying if the one who appoints them is indifferent or a tyrant. But let's have a look at what Kohelet says immediately after this poem. He has made everything beautiful in its time. He, reference to God, the one who controls the times. He's not indifferent. So it might not always be on your timeline and might not always be in ways you can see from the ground floor. But God is not making a mess of your life. He's making something. And from the third floor at the top, where you can see, you can begin to trust. You don't see everything. The third floor is not like 100th floor or anything, but you can begin to trust. And even the times and the experiences you would never have chosen that are out of your control, they're in the hands of someone who knows what he's doing. Kohelet does not let us go comfortably too quickly, though, because the third floor does not pretend the ground floor does not exist. He has seen injustice, real injustice, the oppressed with no comforter, the corrupt official who is praised at his funeral, the righteous person who dies young, the evil who lives long. He names it honestly and does not bypass it. He says, though a sinner does evil 100 times and his days are prolonged, yet I surely know that it will be well with those who fear God, who fear before him. I know. 2 words in the middle there. Cannot see. In the middle of all the uncertainty, all the vanity, all the absurdity, the mystery, all of the things that he cannot see, there's something he knows. Not because the evidence is currently going in the right direction, not because he has accumulated so much wisdom that he finally understands why bad things happen to good and innocent people, but because the God who makes everything beautiful in its time is also the God who keeps accounts. For God will bring every work into judgment, including every secret thing, whether good or evil. So the delayed justice that happened when you're still under the sun and you cannot see everything, it will come. It's not cancelled. The books will be opened. The oppressor who died with full honors, all the injustice, his account is not closed. The quiet person who did the right thing and was never recognized, their account is also not closed either. So from this third floor, from this top floor, you do not need to be the one who ensures justice is done. You do not need to make sure the wicked are punished before you die. You do not need to manage outcomes. It's the one who holds the building. He sees every secret thing, and he's not finished yet. Doesn't mean we should do nothing, but it frees us from the illusion that we can control everything and can change everything. The book closes with this verses. The words of the wise are like goads, and the words of scholars are like well-driven nails given by one shepherd. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is man's all. So what are goads? With a D, goads. Sharp sticks, they make the sheep uncomfortable and move them in the right direction. It's like you push them a bit. So some words and reflections of this Kohelet make us think about the course of our life. And nails, they keep things in place. They are the words that stay no matter the circumstances or absurdities or vapor or vanity of life. And who is the one shepherd? John 10:11 says, I am the good shepherd. This is Jesus talking. The good shepherd gives his life for the sheep. Points directly to the good shepherd who inspired the preacher to use these words. Fear God. After 12 chapters, after all the vapor, after all the absurdity and the searching and the honest grief, the struggles, this is where we land. 12 times this phrase, fear God, is mentioned in the book. And I want to be very clear about what this fear of God means in Ecclesiastes. It's not, oh, I'm so afraid, it's not terror, it's not this kind of thing we have to kind of fear a tyrant or a dictator or something. This word describes how we, as created beings, stand before God as the creator. It combines reverence, awe, love, dependence. It's the opposite of the illusion of independence that is under the sun, where we think we have everything under control. It's the recognition that God is there, that he matters ultimately and completely, and that your life is lived before him as a gift, not just before your boss, your friends, your followers, your own ambitions. And in the end, it says also, this is man's all, some translations, the whole of man, the duty. It's not just the religious portion, it's not just the worship service today, it's the whole thing. When you work, when you rest, your ambition, your contentment, your relationships, your solitude, your joy, your grief. All of it and every secret thing is lived before God, who sees it all and is not surprised by that. And these last few verses, if you look at the book, there's someone else wrote it. Not Kohelet, but someone else wrote about this guy. But it's not an afterthought that someone added it because he was uncomfortable with the content of the skeptical Kohelet preacher. But it is the destination and the summary of this whole journey and research and observation that it has been building toward. So this building of the 3 floors It's not collapsing after we make it to the top floor. Vapor, vanity is real. Life is brief, outcomes are uncertain, control is an illusion, death is real. But this building has a foundation that's not made out of vapor, not made out of breath. The times are in His hands. The gifts come from His hand. The justice is in His hands. The whole of your life is held by the one who put eternity in our hearts. The same eternity that those material things could never fill, because God saved this place for Himself. Not everything is fine, and not everything is easy to do. The view from the top floor is that one shepherd knows that your vision, time, and control is limited, but he will look after you in life's chaos, vapor, and absurdity. And if you fear and trust God, there is nothing else to fear. Because God ultimately entered this absurdity Himself by taking on human form as Jesus Christ, as the one shepherd. He suffered, He took the absurdity, the foolishness of the cross on our behalf, so that we could experience the wholeness of God. Not just a little bit while we live here, temporarily in this world, but in eternity with Him. This is where we will find true happiness, lasting satisfaction, this ultimate gain that the preacher was searching for. Last year, I lost my job in my previous company, and it went into bankruptcy like a year ago. They still owe me a lot of unpaid salary. Bad situation. I was devastated. Lisa can tell you about it. But now I look back 1 year later, and I never would have thought that my current employer would be the one who would be so supportive and sponsor us for work, visa, sponsor us to stay here. This is something the old employer would never have done, would never have been able to, would never have been willing, capable, or even financially able to do that. Like, no chance. And I had no idea about that. I didn't even know I could go this option. Was it hard? Absolutely. It was not easy. But I can see the blessing started in this midst of all the chaos. I'm not out of this vapor and fog and everything. I don't claim I'm like, at the top, I can see everything clearly. I'm like a seer and sees everything. No. But I know whom I can trust to get me out of it. And I think this is the thing where we arrived. So this book of Ecclesiastes comes to an end. It ends the way a good conversation ends. Not with everything solved, but with the right thing said. Note to myself, I don't have to solve everything. There is nothing new under the sun. The cycles turn, the seasons come and go, the generations come and go. The work accumulates and then it disperses. The appetite never fully quiets. The net is always somewhere in the water. Death is coming for us all. But there is a God who is above the sun, who made the times and holds them, who gives the gifts and receives the worship. He sees every secret thing, and He brings everything into account one day, who puts a longing in our heart that nothing else can fill in this world, because it was not designed to fill us. He's saving that space for Himself, and He came Himself into this absurd world so that our longing after Him can be fulfilled. So after all this experiment, this research, the invitation at the end, after everything has been named and assessed, is to a mindset change, to a transformation of your mind, to have open hands instead of clenched fists, to give reverence to the giver of life instead try to get the most out of His creation and the resources and extract everything, to take life received as a gift rather than seized as a project. Fear God, eat your bread with joy. Do your work with all your might. Enjoy the person beside you. Remember that your time here is limited. Accept the ultimate gift that God has given you, Jesus Christ, who gave His life for ourselves, so that our life does not stay absurd. The vapor is real, but it does not have the last word. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher. All is vanity.